Would you rather be bored and getting better or busy and more confused? I mean, let's be honest. If you have some type of back, butt, or sciatica pain, you probably have the belief that the more exercises or treatments you try, the better your chances of relief and the faster you'll get better. But after reviewing over 10,000 back, butt, and sciatica pain cases, I can tell you this could not be further from the truth. In fact, the more you do, the more lost and confused you become, and the further you move from pain relief. Hi everyone, my name is Dr. Charlie Johnson. I'm a physical therapist. I have my board specialty in orthopedics, and I teach people all around the world how to heal their problem naturally. And in this video, I want to share with you a lazy, less is more approach to becoming pain-free if you think you have a disc herniation or you've been officially diagnosed with it. So before we dive into the exact step-by-step process that I recommend you use to heal your herniated disc naturally, I need you to understand the big picture. Why does doing less, and why does being lazy, if you will, about the way that you go about solving this, make so much sense? And it's because of this. This is what I call the ultimate healing scale. So you can see there's a smiley face on one side, there's a frown face on the other side. And your goal here is to shift from a place of being in pain towards healing. Now, the smiley face is going to represent all the things that you're doing to try to make yourself feel better. We'll call these what you believe to be positive inputs. Maybe they are, maybe they aren't. And the frown face represents all the negative inputs, all the things that are keeping you stuck in pain and keeping you from getting better. And the old way of trying to heal disc herniations is to throw a bunch of stuff at it, thinking that it's good or positive, and then it'll help you heal faster. Think massage, acupuncture, chiropractic, core strengthening, stretches, ice, heat, all these different things. The more you do, the faster you'll heal. Not so fast. Because as the old saying goes, you can't out-exercise a bad diet. Analogy here. If your goal is to lose weight, you can run on the treadmill all you want. You can do the best high-intensity cardio workouts, the best fat-burning workouts, but if you're chewing on a donut at the same time, it's probably not going to work so well. And so the same concept applies to healing a herniated disc. You can do all the best treatments in the world thinking they'll tip you towards healing, but if life is holding you back, think mentally and physically, certain habits, routines, beliefs, fears, worries, concerns, usually stuff you don't know yet, which is keeping you stuck in pain and keeping all of that stuff, which is designed to help you out, from actually being effective. And so this is why treatments work temporarily, they feel good in the moment, but the pain always comes back. So the new way of healing disc herniations is that we don't focus on healing by addition or doing more. In fact, I'd recommend that you drop these things out completely to get clarity. We'll talk more about that here in a moment. And instead, we shift the focus towards doing detective work to figure out what about our life, habits, routines, mentally, physically, are keeping us stuck in pain. And once we identify these variables that matter, then we can start to modify, tweak, or even eliminate some of these things such that the scale naturally tips towards healing without any additional effort. And what's really cool is that then, because we're not being held back by all these things which are keeping us stuck in pain, it usually only takes just one motion pill. The goal of taking any medicine, if you think of movement as medicine, is to take as much medicine as needed, as little as necessary. And so if movement is medicine, or could be seen as medicine, why would you take a whole sheet of pills if you don't need it? Instead, I found that if you unload the left side of the scale here and you just find the one motion that feels safe and immediately improves your movement experience, how you move and function throughout life, then it can tip the scale towards healing. So that's the entire goal of what I'm about to share with you, the exact step-by-step process, and this is exactly how I want you to go about applying this concept to healing your herniated disc. All right, so you're here because you have some type of disc herniation, disc bulge, protrusion, extrusion, something like that, and now I want to show you a less is more sort of lazy approach to becoming pain-free. There's 4 steps to this, so follow along. Step 1 is that we want to translate your medical diagnosis into a movement diagnosis. So my guess is that you probably don't feel very confident about trying to fix this thing on the picture. How are you going to push that back to where it maybe belongs? Well, chances are, again, you don't know how to do that. But what you might know how to do is say, hey, when I do this thing, it hurts, and how can I make that motion better? And so we need to translate your medical diagnosis into a movement that is painful or problematic, because that is the way that this disc diagnosis is showing up for you in a way you can see, feel, monitor, and understand. So we want to identify at least one yucky motion up to 3 yucky motions. So step 1, I can guarantee if you have a herniated disc that you have at least one, if not all of these motions which are painful or problematic. So go through these with me. First things first, stand on up, Place your hands on your hips and bend backwards straight to the center. And again, you're just gonna ask yourself, is it yucky or not? Next, what you're gonna do is you're gonna stand, you're gonna twist your trunk to the right in standing, and then bend straight backwards. We're gonna call this a back bend to the right. And then you're gonna do the same thing, except this time you're gonna twist your trunk to the left and bend straight backwards, backwards bend to the left. Are any of those yucky? If so, write them down. Next, we're gonna go through what I call a straight leg raise, a seated straight leg raise. So you're going to sit, place your heel, your leg straight with your heel on the ground, and then you're just gonna raise it up. And if you have sciatica, chances are this will be pretty yucky. You'll notice restriction, pain, numbness, tingling. So just go slow when you do this. Then you're gonna do the same thing on the right side. You might notice that both are yucky. Either way, no big deal, just record them. So 1 rep of each of these, yucky or not. And then finally, figure 4. So you're going to take your right leg and you're going to put the right ankle up on your left knee, as if kind of tying your shoes or something like that. And then you're gonna do the same thing on the left side. So there we have it, 3 potential motions with different variations within each, because you have the right side, the left side, and then you have some different kind of angles you could go. And we're just saying, are any of these yucky? If so, then rather than trying to treat the disc diagnosis, now we're just treating whatever the painful yucky motion is. That's what we're trying to fix. We're trying to now fix the yucky motion. We're not trying to fix the diagnosis or the MRI. We're treating you as a person who has trouble doing a certain motion, not as a picture. Okay, so now we've translated that disc diagnosis into something you can see, feel, and understand, a movement diagnosis by finding a yucky motion. Now we need to move on to step 2. Step 2 is that we need to track. The idea is pretty straightforward. You can't manage what you don't measure. Imagine going back and every week getting an MRI to see if the disc bulge got better, same, or worse. That would be very expensive and just not feasible. So something you can do though is you can track to see, well, if I have a yucky leg raise today, well, how about next week? How about next week? How about the next week? And you can see, is that thing getting better or not? How are we gonna do that? Here's what I want you to do. Using this scale right here, yummy yucky scale. 10 is low yucky, 90 is very high yucky. The higher the number, the more yucky it is. I want you to take the yucky motion or the yucky motions from step 1, and I want you to record how yucky they are. And so this is just a sample of the way that you could document it. You could do this easily on a little notepad or something like that, but write your top 3 yucky motions to start. Back bend 50, figure 4 left, 40, leg raise right, just as an example, 40, and that's your baseline. One other thing, I also want you to record your top pain triggers. These are all the things or the activities I'm gonna allow you to list. You could list just 1, but I'm gonna ask you try to list up to 3 activities which increase your pain, numbness, or tingling. So maybe it's walking, maybe it's standing, maybe it's sitting, maybe it's driving, maybe it's lifting, maybe it's going to the gym, something like that. And just big picture, using the same scale above, give me an idea of how yucky it is. Would you say that walking in this example is, is it low, medium, or high yuckiness? Well, Charlie, it's pretty high. Okay. Within high, is it a 70, 80, or 90? It's a 70, great. And so use this scale to record your top 3 yucky motions, take them from step 1, record how yucky they are. If you have to do another rep of it, do another rep of it. And then your top 3 pain triggers and record how yucky those are. And then add up the scores. So you can see here, 50, 40, 40, 70, 60, 40, 300. Now what we can do is we can take the same day next week, and I want you to retest just 1 time each of the yucky motions, just 1 rep, and then rescore these pain triggers. And if, as in this example, you see that the total number, the total score goes down, then the trend is better. Now, maybe it's not going down as fast as you want it to go, but it is headed in the right direction, which tells you you're on the right path. And if, and only if, this trend switches to the same, meaning the number stays the same week to week, only then do you need to change what you're doing. But if the trend is moving in the positive direction, then you're on the right path. So hopefully that makes sense. Again, this is a fancy version of how you could track, but you could easily do the same thing on a sheet of paper, on a napkin, on a sticky pad, or something like that. Recording these things, and once a week on the same day, ideally, retesting to see what happens to the score. And then you look at the big picture trend to determine what you need to do. This way we're making the decisions based off the objective data, not what you or I think or feel. All right, so we're looking at the number. If it's getting better, awesome, don't change it. If it's the same, you need to change something. And obviously if it's worse, well then you need more help. All right, so step 2, now that we've got a baseline, now we can start to manipulate some inputs to see if we can move you in the right direction or not. So you've got a baseline at this point, but then in the future you'll go back and you'll retest. But now let's start unloading the left side of the scale, shifting you naturally from a place of pain to healing. So let's heal by subtraction, step 3. So remember earlier when I was looking at that ultimate healing scale and I said, well, the old way of trying to heal a herniated disc was to do all this stuff. And then I put a line in there. I said, you know what? I'd actually recommend that you remove these things completely, all the stuff you're doing to try to fix the problem, such that we can really determine the impact of those things and if they even matter. Maybe the things that you're doing, which you believe are helping you, are actually keeping you from healing. So I recommend doing what I call calming muddy waters and stopping poking the angry bear. Meaning, if you're doing all sorts of stuff, you're throwing all sorts of rocks in the water, healing by addition, all types of treatments, chances are you're not able to determine what's working and what's not, what's helping you and what's not helping you. And so I would recommend you remove all those different treatments for the next week or so, 7 to 10 days, and you see what happens. Maybe it moves your trend, going back to measuring, in the positive direction. You're like, oh my gosh, I didn't realize that all those things I thought were helping me actually were keeping me from getting better. Really cool. And stop poking the angry bear physically and mentally. Physically, stop foam rolling it. Stop sitting on a tennis ball. Stop using different massage guns and things like that to poke and prod at this problem. Mentally, stop checking in to see, is my pain there? Is my pain there? Ooh, does that hurt? Oh, am I going to feel pain when I do this? Your brain is a great predictor, and if you keep poking it psychologically, by fueling it with attention, you're going to increase the fear and the overall reaction around the symptoms, which will make you worse and or prevent your healing. So that's what I mean when I say calm muddy waters, removing all things that you've been doing for the next 7 to 10 days and not poking the angry bear physically and mentally. We start to subtract stuff. That doesn't take any additional work. In fact, that saves you a ton of time, energy, and probably some money too. Now, the next level part of healing by subtraction is helping you discover what you don't know yet. These are the habits, routines, things like that. And we call this morphing motion. So I want you to take the yucky motions that you found in step 1, and I want you to ask yourself, how are these painful, yucky motions showing up in life? And then I want you to morph those painful motions into life to help you identify, again, what you don't know yet is keeping you from getting better. Then we can tweak them, we can stop them, we can modify them, so we're not constantly picking the scab. So let me show you what I mean. Let's just say you had a yucky back bend. One of the 3 back bends or all the 3 back bends were yucky. Well, we know that if you have a yucky back bend, well, what is a yucky back bend in life? How does that show up for us? Well, it shows up in maybe the exercises that we're doing. Maybe you're doing press-ups because you believe that the more press-ups you do, the more you'll push this jelly back in the donut. But that's weird. That's a yucky motion for me, Charlie. Well, would you rather treat the disc in the picture, or would you rather treat you as a person and your specific symptoms? I would recommend that you do that. And so maybe, even though that's what you think it's doing, maybe it's making you worse and keeping you from getting better. And so, probably want to stop that. Maybe you're a belly sleeper, and that is getting closer to back bend. If you have trouble back bending, well, you're going to have trouble walking. And so maybe we need to shorten the stride a little bit so we're not kicking our leg back as far. Maybe we need to tuck the pelvis a little bit so it takes us out of that arch in our lower back. It removes some of the back bend component from walking. There's lots of different tweaks that we can do, and again, we teach people all around the world how to identify this stuff and tweak it so they can optimize the healing environment. If a back bend is yucky, well, then you'll certainly have trouble if you're working on your belly, or maybe looking at your phone on your belly, or working on your iPad, or, I don't know, playing cards or something like that while you're laying on your stomach. Standing is probably an issue as well, because many of us who have a yucky back bend, we stand in the sway back, and again, you can see the arch in the lower back. That's how it shows up for you. Maybe you've been told that because you have a herniated disc, you need to sit up tall, because if you slouch, the jelly is going to shoot out the back of the donut. But if you have a yucky back bend, sitting up tall is a yucky back bend. Didn't think about that. So you see how morphing motions allows you to be a little bit of like a ninja detective. It allows you to think about how are these things showing up in my life in maybe ways that I didn't know. And all these things that people are telling me because they're trying to fit me in a box are actually keeping me from healing. You would actually do better slouching if you had a yucky back bend. Slouch, raise the seat up a little bit, change the hip trunk angle, lean back to support your lower back. All strategies, working smarter, not harder. That is how the back bend shows up in your life. These are all things we would want to tweak, modify, and or remove if necessary. Now, maybe the back bend was fine, but the leg raise was a problem. Maybe you have some pain, numbness, tingling, sciatica. Sciatica commonly is provoked by stretching it with a leg raise. So these are all the ways that a leg raise would show up. In your exercise routine, again, these are all the things that usually people do because this is what should be fixing you, but it's actually keeping you from getting better. This is the value of calming muddy waters and removing this stuff. This is a leg raise. Look at that L shape. This is a leg raise. So all those nerve flosses you've been told to do, you could do them, but you're putting yourself in leg raises. Leg raise. Hamstring stretch. You have a herniated disc, Charlie, because your hamstrings are tight, which is pulling your pelvis backwards and causing you to round your lower back, and that's the problem or the reason why. Well, guess what? You have a yucky leg raise. So I don't care what they say, putting yourself in a yucky leg raise is gonna make you worse. Slump slider, yucky leg raise, more nerve flosses. Maybe you're paying also to have someone stretch you or glide your nerves, and that is also, again, a leg raise. Downward dog. Well, yoga is good for herniated discs, right? Well, it's not good nor bad. If you have yucky motions that show up in yoga, like a cobra, like a downward dog, and guess what? you might need to tweak those things. Avoid them, replace them, modify them with something else. Another way a leg raise shows up is when you're sleeping. Maybe you throw your leg across your your bed, something like that. Or the way you're sitting or you're driving. These are all leg raises. We've got to tweak these things. Move the seat closer. Recline back a little bit. Open up that hip trunk angle. Maybe we put a little bit of a block underneath the heel so we're not constantly pulling up on the foot, which tensions the sciatic nerve even further. All sorts of stuff we can do here. Want to know why you can't run? Because that's a leg raise. Lifting like this, that is a leg raise. So awareness is key in this phase, as you can start to see. Figure 4. If you have a yucky figure 4, it's going to show up in figure 4 stretches, pigeon poses, child's pose stretches. Maybe someone's stretching your hip in this direction. It's going to show up in you doing a seated figure 4 stretch. Lots of different positions, but all the same type of motion. If you sit with your legs crossed in one way, shape, or form, one way or the other, then that is a figure 4, or moving closer to it. Maybe you sit, your legs are a little splayed open, and you lean forward. So maybe you're not bringing your knee up or your leg up from below, but maybe you're bringing your body forward. Again, that decreases what I call the hip trunk angle and moves you closer to that figure 4. Sleeping. Figure 4s show up a lot in sleeping. Maybe you cross at the ankles. You sleep funky like this. You rotate and twist your trunk. I sleep like this in a 4 position. I also like to sleep like this. All figure 4s. So hopefully I don't have a yucky figure 4 ever, because I'm going to have a lot of habits to break. Now maybe you've been told, Charlie, why am I talking to myself? Maybe you've been told, whatever your name is, put the pillow between your knees. That's good, right? Well, if you put the pillow between the knees, it opens up the leg, it externally rotates the hip, moves it closer to a figure 4, and now you're crossing at the ankles. Is that really what we want? Looks like a figure 4 to me, a mini version of it. Well, why not put a pillow between your ankles too? And then it takes the rotation out of the hip, and now you're stacked and your legs are parallel. No more figure 4. So this is why understanding how these yucky motions show up in your life is so helpful, because then you can start to make little tweaks to optimize the healing environment. Maybe you stand like this, not for fun, but I know, for example, when I'm working, sometimes I'll stand up and I'll shift my leg or my hip, I'll jut my hip out. Or maybe you stand like this when you're working at the counter or at a desk or something like that in a little tree pose. Again, yoga's good, right? Well, it's putting you in a figure 4 in this case. Maybe not. Maybe it's just having you do your yucky motion over and over again, and you wonder why you can't get better. So that is morphing motions. All right, step 3. Now we've optimized the healing environment. Again, this sucker's going to naturally tip towards healing. And it almost always then requires very little healing by addition, very little effort to fully tip things towards healing. So if you think of movement as medicine, again, the goal is to take as much medicine as needed, but as little as necessary. We don't want to take more pills than we need. And if movement is medicine and movement is a pill, then taken at the right dose, frequency, and timing, given the right prescription, one motion may be all that you need, if any at all. Now, some people say, no way, Jose, Charlie. I don't believe you. I don't believe the one motion thing. Well, if you've ever taken one type of pill for your headache, one type of medicine for your headache, and if movement is medicine, then why couldn't just one type of movement as a pill resolve your pain? Healing by addition. But we don't add that much because it takes a lot of effort. So what I want you to do is this. I want you to go through each of these motions on the right and left side of the body. And I only want you to pick one motion that is the yummiest, that is the safest. Just pick one safe motion for the purpose of this video. Now, there's more to this process, finding a motion that's not only safe, but then also improves your movement experience and other things as well. But just pick one motion that feels good. So what I want you to do is I want you to sit and I want you to twist your trunk to the right and twist your trunk to the left. If the right is yucky, that's fine. If the left is yummy, great. You want to pick a pain-free motion. If one of these is safe, just go to that one direction, by the way. You don't have to go to the right and to the left. And what I'm going to recommend, if you want to use this as medicine, is to do it 2 times 20 reps, twice a day, as needed. Maybe before you know you're going to experience some symptoms. Maybe one of the twists, right or left, wasn't pain-free. Sit down and try a right knee to chest, a left knee to chest. By the way, it doesn't matter if your symptoms are on the left side or the right side. Just pick something that feels safe and feels good. If one of these is pain-free, do that one thing, 3 times 30-second holds, the knee to chest, 3 times a day, as needed, as your medicine. And remember, we're just doing one of these motions. So if you found something here in the twist, the right twist that was yummy, stop. You have your yummy motion. You're going to do that for the next week, next 7 days, and then you're going to update. Remember we talked about you can't manage what you don't measure. You're going to update your scores to see if they're getting better. And if they are, you are not going to change the yummy motion that you're doing. If they're the same, you can switch it to another motion that feels safe. If you're worse, you definitely need to do something different. By the way, if any of these motions at any time, they feel good today, but then they become painful, say, tomorrow, then just stop them. There's many other motions to try. So the whole goal of this exercise is just find one motion to one side of the body that feels good and then do it as prescribed. That's it. You don't need to do a bunch of them. Maybe you still haven't found a yummy motion. Do a figure 4 right, a figure 4 on the left. If you found something there that was safe, 3 30-second holds, you can kind of lean into the hip or pull the knee to the opposite shoulder to get a little bit of a stretch. Do it 3 times a day as needed. Maybe you still haven't found a yummy motion. Maybe one of the leg raises was painful, but maybe one of them was pain-free. Why not work the good side? 2 sets of 15 reps, 3 times a day as needed, if one of those motions was safe. Seated forward bend. Let's just focus on straight forward for now. Maybe you found that was pain-free and felt good. 3 times 30-second holds, 4 times a day as needed. And then maybe a back bend was safe. So we'd stand, we do 1 set of 10 reps, 4 times a day as needed. And again, when I say as needed, this is the timing of when you take the medication. So why not take the medicine right before you know you're going to experience some symptoms as a preventative measure? Or when you feel a little bit of symptoms, go ahead and use the medicine as a tool, the movement as a tool to reduce your symptoms overall. If you have pain when you sleep, do it right before you go to bed. Or if you have pain when you drive a car, do it right before you get in the car. And then as a break along the way. Think about the timing. The timing of medicine matters. Therefore, the timing of movement, if viewed as medicine, also matters. Now let me reiterate. If you have 4 of these motions which are pain-free, don't do all 4. Just pick the one that feels best and do it as prescribed. And just because you do a twist to the left, don't think you have to do a twist to the right. You only pick the one that feels safe. Pick one direction, one motion that feels the safest. That is it. One thing. Go back after the 7-day time frame, rescore 1 rep of this yucky motion, 1 rep of that yucky motion, 1 rep of that yucky motion, then rescore your pain triggers. And if, again, the scores go down, keep doing what you're doing. Do not change any of the inputs. If you're the same, you need to change it. If worse, again, you've got to change it as well. All right, so there you have it. The lazy, less is more approach to resolving your back, butt, and sciatica pain due to a disc herniation. If you want to work smarter, not harder on your way to pain relief, be sure to check out my other videos. Thanks.